Okay, from Team 45 League, last two games. Now there's some interesting stuff here. D5, whoops, meant to stop her. D5 looks like the normal move, but white starts getting activity here, and black has to be careful. I've had some games with this recently and in the past. Let's see. Now if F6, let's see, I know we can take. And if the queen comes up, it's important to take the knight first. We'll see why.
Check.
Okay, now we can take this. And white's going to win a pawn.
Check.
Okay, so black probably has to move his king here. This could be a blunder. Now we have problems down here. So black probably has to move his king. And white still takes this and he just won a pawn. Now let's see why it's important to take the knight first. Even though it's pinned, if you go here directly, and after this check, black can play king d8, and suddenly white's in a little bit of a logjam. He can't play queen takes e5. Let's see. And if he plays bishop takes here, this will prove embarrassing for white. So we have to take the knight ahead of all this. Okay, but black opts to play d6. It's a slow, safe move. The bishop gets a little less scope. You know, we have to assess this position as even. Although you know, black is a little constricted on the back. You know, his queen doesn't have a way to the second rank at this point. So you know, black will castle, and you know he'll want to get his rook connected by bringing his queen up. But here we have three attackers on e5, so black needs to do something about the threat. There's only two defenders, and one of them is in danger of being taken off. So he eliminates the threat. And again, you know, I would call this even. Let's see what happens. Okay, so, you know, as pieces get traded, white's winning chances diminish. Now, that's an interesting dilemma to be in. Like, are you the higher rated or lower rated? Well, here they're virtually the same. And as far as I understand, white's team is trailing in the match, one and a half. So they need a win in one of the remaining two games. So if you're trading pieces and when you need a win, you know your winning chances are diminishing. Now it looks like two sets of minors are coming off because white needs to take here.
Check.
And you know, I mean, the position is even, and white's winning chances are reduced. So how do we avoid this? How do we avoid so many piece trades? Well, the simple answer is you're going to have to take with the pawn. This will keep the pieces on the board. Okay, now these minors don't get traded off, and you know, white's winning chances are there. So are black's. You know, black to play, black will probably just castle. And what's white going to do? Well, maybe he'll put his knight here. Okay. You know, sometimes maybe we're reluctant to shut this bishop in, but you know, white controls a little more boardroom here. You know, like I say, been saying, this queen doesn't have a whole lot of scope to come in off the back rank. So how is it going to get this queen developed? You know, it's a very good question. So you know, I think this is a case of where, even though the game is even, white has preserved his advantage of the first move. And, you know, we can always use this bishop on b2 later in the game. You know, like I say, the big question for black is how is he going to develop his queen? So, you know, one alternative might be to stop and spend a tempo and play bishop g4. Okay, the idea is that gives the queen some scope, okay? It does pin the knight for what it's worth. But, you know, white's you know, white's creating threats here. Well, no, here, if white wanted to take, you must take back with the pawn. But let's just play here, and now we're threatening to win a piece. And now we can break the pin. You know, you have to call it. You know, you have to say this is about even. But by keeping the minors on the board, white's increases winning chances. So this
check,
starts headed towards a draw. So he took this way because he didn't want to shut his bishop in. Now, strategically, this wasn't wise for a number of reasons. Okay, the first is we've got a dark squared bishop here. We want our pawns on light squares. So what would make sense here would be a move like d5. D5 gives black a lot of flexibility. Okay, it opens up the diagonal for this bishop, right? Suddenly this bishop has some scope, right? What else? The pawn is influencing a couple things in the center, and but also more importantly, you know, this pawn is on the opposite color of the bishop. It's not in the way. So by playing c5, you know, we're sticking this on a dark square. This pawn becomes weak, and you know, white's looking okay here. And you know, now here he's trying for queenside expansion. Maybe this is the time to play d5. You know, I still don't necessarily like this pawn here. It's on a dark square. I mean, white could play something like c4 maybe, and if takes, you know, this pawn is on the wrong color of this bishop. Okay, black might play something like this. You know, the game is still, you know, technically even, but you know, the fact this is on a dark square is slightly in white's favor, but you know, I still think the game is even because we have two sets of minor pieces traded. So I don't think this was the right idea. Now, was this the right idea? That's a good question. What can white do to try to press an advantage here? Well, the first thing he should do is complete his development on the back rank. Let's bring the queen out to one of these squares. Then maybe we're going to consider a move like e4. We might even consider e4 here. Although, I don't know, let's see. Knight here, pawn here, push, shuts this bishop off. I don't know, probably not a good idea to put this on a dark square. You know, again, I think the game is even. You know, it's about as even as it comes. Let's see. You know, white can't threaten mate, he'll lose his queen. But you know, I think black should have been playing for d5 at some point. And now, you know, just looking for trades. You know, well, black. You know, you have to think of another thing too. Black's team is happy with the draw. So at this point, you know, we could argue black has one weakness: a backward pawn on the open file. So queen trade won't hurt black's chances for holding a draw here. And you know, game looks even. You could argue white now has a threat to double pawns because of the weakness here. Okay, eliminates that. Now, you know, this pawn remains a problem, but it's only one weakness. Okay, back you go. But, you know, we're putting more pawns on black. Okay, game still seems even. Now maybe white wants to try to get occupy this square. Another pawn on a dark square. I mean, black has put 6 of his 7 pawns on the color of his bishop. You know, this is probably not a good idea. And now permanent weaknesses all over the place for black. And the knight is getting into d5. So, you know, this knight's entrenched. Excuse me, I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Okay, let's try to do something different for black. Black's one hope for counterplay is with a4 and taking. Can black play this? I mean, black's okay with the draw. I mean, if white wants to repeat the position, I mean, black shouldn't mind this. But you know, this takes the rook off. You know, black's one hope for counterplay here. The other idea is to try to advance this up here. But once the pawn hits f5, white may play g3, and you know, black's pawns are embarrassed. Okay, back where we were. Okay, I don't know. Let's see. So what should be white's plan here? White wants to trade rooks. Now, how hard is that? Well, it may not be as hard as it seems. Let's start by putting pawns on light squares. Okay, let's put this here. Now, black needs to save his rook. Let's just come back here for the sake of argument. Now we're going to play here, entrenching, further entrenching this knight. Now, we're going to transfer this knight to f5, and we're going to occupy both f5 and d5. Okay, I mean, I've won positions like this with white before. So let's see, what's black going to do? Well, he needs some counterplay. You can't come over here right away because of the knight fork, but we can do this. Okay, now here, counterplay, and now I put the knight here. Uh-oh, we got a problem. I'm going to drop a pawn. Let's see. So we have to stop and maybe do this first, but this is still coming in, and I'll put him up here. Now, I was talking about using both these squares. Now we're ready to double. So here we go. Now, it's important to take. Now, black needs counterplay. Here it comes. Okay, let's back up. But how does he defend that pawn? Well, it's protected in some respects. That if white takes on d6, this will fall. But you know, we might be able to swing this king over to c2 or even b2 to help. Although I don't know, maybe black can generate something. You know, black still has some activity here, but you know, the objective as I started was to try to get some rooks off, and I haven't done that yet. I said it was easy. Well, we need more open lines. Let's see. Maybe we can advance the pawns up, and you know, play for a g5 break, and you know, maybe open up some lines for the rooks. You know, but it was important that black generate counterplay against b3 because that's all he can really do in this position. Okay, let's go forward. Now white says, if you take, I'll be on the file. So, you know, part of black's mistake was not being behind that pawn. And this just seals up the whole queen side. Now, that could help white. Let's go back and dominate this. And, you know, advancing the pawns, maybe it gives this bishop a square at some point. But they become more exposed when they're advanced. You know, Now, so far, well, we can't do this move. This was my plan. We can prepare it with this here. Okay. Now we need to play f3 here. Oh, well, f3 followed by e4. This was begging to be played, and this is where it ended. Let's see. They agreed to a draw. So this, White didn't fight all that hard. Let's try to get knight. Let's try to get this knight here where it belongs. Let's see. Guess we have to send the king over to guard e3, and if black just sits around, white's going to get this ideal thing in. Now the next step is get this knight in here. Got to be careful here. This will force a trade. So let's come back here. Now black should keep that knight out of e3 at all costs. But unfortunately, whoops, that's going to drop it. Rook takes. Okay. Let's see. Let's go this way. Now this puts a threat on this. Okay, so the bishop comes back. Now let's hit it again. He comes back. And I still want this knight over here. So we're going to tempo that rook. I don't know, maybe black just goes back to what he was doing. Now the way I was doing it a little earlier, with an earlier f3 and e4, doing the f3 move when the knight was on d5. At some point, black probably needs to try to get f5 in. Let's see if he can do it in this position. Now it's pinned. I'm going to drop back and bringing the king out. Let's see. If rook here, well, let's see, what's this? Now this is good for black. Now black's going to be able to support that pawn. So he had to do that maneuver earlier when I was saying it. Let's see. Where was I saying it? This is when the knight was still on d5. I don't think the knight belonged on f4. Okay, let's kick this now. Now we're going to play here. Now let's see, you want to go here instead to try to get whoops, let's back this up. You want to go here to be able to answer e4 with f5. Let's see. No, black's still holding on. Now make black find these moves, because if black doesn't play f5, white's playing knight here, and f5 is not coming in. Period. So that was the path. I got some comments. Sorry, can pawn push attack the rook? Yeah, the f5 was an idea earlier. Well, just some of the ideas, but black just needed a draw to stay ahead in the match, and their score is now 2-1. So it was a good game. Let's stop.